Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to another edition of Talking Pro Football. I am Michael Carlyle, and man, have we got a lot to get to. NFL free agency officially starts on Wednesday, although the legal tampering period is now underway. How much has happened in the last week? So much that Aaron Rodgers agreeing to a multi-year deal to stay in Green Bay for crazy money isn't the top story. Russell Wilson being traded to the Denver Broncos isn't the big news. The Cowboys trading Amari Cooper to the Browns for a used jockstrap isn't it. Even Calvin Ridley being suspended for at least a year for betting on games doesn't get the top spot. Nope, it's Tom Brady. Tom freaking Brady. He's back. 40 days. It took 40 days for Giselle to drive Tom Brady absolutely bonkers and out of retirement and back into the NFL. All right, maybe that's not quite true, but Brady did announce on Sunday that his short-lived retirement was over and he would return to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers next season. Brady's announcement on Instagram read as follows, quote, "These past 2 months, I've realized my place is still on the field and not in the stands. That time will come, but it's not now. I love my teammates. I love my supportive family. They make this all possible. I'm coming back for my 23rd season in Tampa." The announcement shrewdly came less than 24 hours before the start of that legal tampering period, and free agents can start talking to other teams. So that gave the Buccaneers a little time to start getting their own house in order before looking at outside moves. But yes, Tom Brady is back. And if you think about it, yeah, he's going to be 45. At some point in time, those skills have got to start diminishing. But we didn't really see signs of it last year. Brady statistically one of, if not his best season last year. He should have been the MVP. So for him to come back for another year, this is huge for Tampa Bay, especially when you look at that NFC South and you look at the Panthers, you look at the Falcons, yeesh. You look at the Saints, new head coach, lots of questions at quarterback, way over the salary cap. The division is there for the taking. The NFC as a whole is a bit down. So great news for Tampa Bay, no doubt about it, as they get Tom Brady back for another season, and without a doubt, your big news of the week. And Tom, once again, he makes the announcement. It leaks that he's retiring before the Super Bowl, so he kind of steals those headlines away. He makes his announcement, nope, not retiring, I'm coming back, on Selection Sunday for the NCAA tournament, overshadowing that a bit. Tom Brady, he loves the headlines. Other news from the National Football League, the Seattle Seahawks have traded Super Bowl winning quarterback Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos. Quarterback Drew Lock, whom the Broncos drafted in the second round in 2019, will go to Seattle as part of that deal, along with tight end Noah Fant, defensive lineman Shelby Harris, 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and a 5th-round pick. The trade gives Denver the quarterback they've been looking for since Peyton Manning retired. It also gives Seattle a foundation to rebuild on with those draft picks. But make no mistake, it will be a rebuild in Seattle. Denver, meanwhile, and I got it, you're in the same division as Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, but the Broncos are now legit contenders. Now, you've still got to get past Mahomes. You've still got to get past the Raiders, who made the playoffs. You still got to get past the Chargers, who are improving. That may be the best division in football, but with that defense, the weapons on offense, and Russell Wilson still in his prime going to Denver, that is huge for the Broncos. I love this move, even though they gave up a lot to get it. But if the Rams showed us anything, hey, draft picks are really overrated. You just get rid of them all, win now, and worry about the future. Well, in the future. Atlanta Falcons wide receiver Calvin Ridley suspended for at least the 2022 season after gambling on games last year. The NFL released a statement last week announcing his suspension, saying he gambled on games over a 5-day stretch in November of 2021 when he was on the non-football injury list. In a series of tweets last week after the suspension was announced, Ridley said he bet $1,500 total and that, quote, "I don't have a gambling problem." The NFL placed Ridley, or they say that Ridley placed multi-leg parlays on bets involving 3, 5, and 8 games, including the Falcons to win via his mobile device out of state. Keep in mind, this is the second piece of news involving troubling gambling issues this offseason. In addition to the Ridley suspension, which we'll get back to in a second because that is a big deal. But in addition to that, don't forget Dolphins owner Stephen Ross has been accused by former head coach Brian Flores of offering bonuses for losing, and that was alleged to have happened right around the time that Ross invested heavily in a sports gambling website. Now, I'm not suggesting that Stephen Ross was trying to profit off his investment by tanking the Dolphins, but I am saying it's a bad look for the National Football League. And for all those people on social media who point out suspensions and the lack thereof for other things, and poor Calvin Ridley, it's technically an indefinite suspension, but it will last at least all of the upcoming season. Keep in mind, without the integrity of the game, the National Football League has absolutely nothing. They've got no choice but to come down hard when you have players betting on football. Now, hopefully, they will also fully investigate the allegations from Flores as it relates to Stephen Ross, because even taking the whole him being invested in a sports gambling website out of the equation, that's still a really bad look for the National Football League. We all know teams tank games for better draft position, but it's still a bad look. Now, as far as the complaints other people have had about Ridley getting an indefinite suspension and this guy only getting 4 games for this and that guy only getting 5 games for, look, here's the deal, and don't get me wrong. Domestic violence is a huge problem, and when players are involved in anything off the field like that, altercations in bars, certainly the domestic violence, and that's something that seems to come up way too often in the National Football League. Those things need to be taken more seriously than they have been. I think the NFL has gotten better at it, but they're a long ways from being where they need to be. It's not fair to compare Ridley getting an indefinite suspension and this guy only getting 4 games for domestic violence. The issue isn't the Ridley suspension there. The issue is the NFL needs to do more when it comes to domestic violence and things like that. But make no mistake, you had to come down hard if you're the National Football League on Ridley. And hopefully they will do their due diligence in investigating the Stephen Ross situation as well. Because again, without the integrity of the game, the NFL has nothing. Deshaun Watson will not face charges on 9 criminal complaints following a police investigation into 22 civil lawsuits alleging sexual misconduct in massage sessions. 9 women made criminal complaints against Watson. 8 of those women testified before a grand jury last week. The grand jury returned 9 no bills on the complaints presented by the prosecutor. In a statement, the NFL said that the league, quote, has been closely monitoring all developments in the matter, which remains under review of the personal conduct policy. Watson, remember, earned $10.5 million in salary last season while sitting out the entire year. He had asked for a trade prior to the allegations. He still wants out of Texas. Can't blame him for that. Houston is in a rough spot. Quite honestly, I think they're ready to part ways with him as well, especially if their asking price can be met. The Seahawks, the Panthers, the Saints among the teams certainly that will be interested in Watson. Now, he's probably still going to face some sort of punishment from the National Football League, although, look, it's also entirely possible the league looks at this and says, well, look, he didn't play all of last season. That's enough. My guess is he's still going to get some sort of suspension, even without charges being filed, because you can't make the league look bad. Well, unless you're an owner who's bribing the head coach to lose right after he invests in a sports gaming site. I guess. I don't know. Amari Cooper's time with the Dallas Cowboys, that has come to an end. Cooper is being traded to the Cleveland Browns for a 2022 5th-round pick as well as a 6th-round pick. Cooper, who turns 28 in June, ranked 8th in the league during his time in Dallas in targets among receivers, 7th in receptions, 9th in receiving yards, and 9th in receiving touchdowns. Browns, by the way, also released wide receiver Jarvis Landry to make room for Cooper. Amari Cooper may be gone, but Michael Gallup's not going anywhere. Gallup and the Cowboys have agreed to terms on a 5-year, $62.5 million deal. He and CeeDee Lamb still give Dallas quite the 1-2 punch at wide receiver. DeMarcus Lawrence's time with the Cowboys could be coming to an end. The front office recently asked the All-Pro pass rusher to accept a pay cut for the upcoming season. Lawrence politely, or maybe not so politely, who knows, he declined. That's the big story here. He declined, whether it was politely or not. Lawrence declines. Can't blame him for that. He's set to earn a base salary of $19 million this next season. Cowboys are trying to free up a lot of room with the salary cap. So with his reluctance, if you will, to accept a pay cut, his time probably coming to an end in Dallas. Aaron Rodgers is not done with the Green Bay Packers, and there's a really good chance that the 4-time MVP will finish his career where it started. Rodgers announced last week on Twitter that he will return to the Packers for the upcoming season. The announcement came after reports of a 4-year deal that would make Rodgers the highest paid player in NFL history. Rodgers, however, says that a new deal has not yet been signed or agreed upon. The sides are working on a new contract that would lower his salary cap for the upcoming season while giving Rodgers contractual clarity well into his 40s. Now, it's not all rainbows and unicorns for the Packers. Davante Adams has informed the team that he will not play on the franchise tag this season and is seeking a long-term deal to remain with the team. Both sides are really far apart in these negotiations. Who knows when or if this gets resolved? Adams would make just over $20 million on the franchise tag this season. That would make him the third highest paid wide receiver in the league behind DeAndre Hopkins and Julio Jones. Kirk Cousins is staying put in Minnesota through at least 2023. The Vikings are signing Cousins to a 1-year, $35 million fully guaranteed extension that'll keep him under contract through 2023. Cousins will get a raise to $40 million for this upcoming season, with $55 million payable by next March, as well as a no-trade clause. The new deal also allows Minnesota to save almost $14 million against the salary cap. Cousins, by the way, 59-2 record as an NFL quarterback, and he's now made $231,669,486 in his career. Not bad work if you can get it. The Indianapolis Colts have traded quarterback Carson Wentz to the Washington Commanders. That's going to take some getting used to. Yes, the Washington Commanders in exchange for 2 third-round picks. One of those selections, a 2023 third-round pick, can become a second-round draft pick if the often-injured Wentz appears in at least 70% of the offensive snaps next season. The Commanders and Colts also swap places in the second round for this year's draft as well. The Denver Broncos, who traded 3-time All-Pro pass rusher Von Miller to the Rams back in November, move that worked out well for Miller. He went on to win the Super Bowl with the Rams. Miller set to hit the free agent market. He's been linked to a possible return to the Rams. He's also been linked to a couple of other teams. However, last week on social media, Von Miller said he'd like to return to his old team, the Denver Broncos. In a Twitter post, Miller said, quote, "I kind of want that old thing back, 5280. The 5280, of course, refers to the elevation of Denver's Empower Field at Mile High, 5,280 feet. The New England Patriots have released veteran linebacker Kyle Van Noy. The move creates about $4.1 million in salary cap space, nearly doubling the Patriots' total cap space to about $9 million. Van Noy, who turns 31 on March 26th, had signed a 2-year, $12 million contract with the Patriots last March. It was his second stint with the team after he had been a part of 2 Super Bowl championship teams from 2016 to 2019 before signing with the Dolphins in 2020. Tight end Zach Ertz, who was traded to the Arizona Cardinals from the Eagles last season, has agreed to terms on a 3-year contract to stay with his new team. The deal's worth a little over $31.5 million with $17.5 million guaranteed. Ertz wanted to stay in Arizona and quickly got his wish. Ertz, by the way, tied a Cardinals single-season record last year for catches by a tight end, and he did it in just 11 games. He finished 9th in receiving yards among tight ends last year. Speaking of the Cardinals, they and running back James Conner have agreed to a 3-year contract extension. Conner's not going anywhere. Carolina Panthers, speaking of not going anywhere, maybe, probably, they aren't looking to move running back Christian McCaffrey, but that doesn't mean teams aren't interested in pursuing him. Panthers have taken multiple calls from teams interested in making a deal for the All-Pro. Reportedly, the Panthers would be looking for a first-round pick plus another piece of compensation in order to part ways with one of the most versatile offensive weapons in the NFL. Look, I love Christian McCaffrey. I think he's phenomenal. If you're the Carolina Panthers, you got to listen. And if a team wows you, you probably got to pull the trigger. The Panthers, they're not going anywhere. And as great as McCaffrey is, if you can parlay that into draft picks and guys who can step in and help out now, you got to at least consider it if you're Carolina. And finally today, Richard Sherman, who was most recently with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, has pled guilty to 2 misdemeanor charges stemming from his arrest last July. Sherman pled guilty in King County Superior Court to negligent driving in the first degree and criminal trespass in the second degree, as well as an infraction for speeding in a roadway construction zone. Sherman was arrested last July 14th after police say he drove his SUV into a closed construction zone, sustaining significant damage